Welcome to Train Signal. You are watching Installing SRM. In this lesson, we will review the install architecture for SRM. We will also install SRM on the protected and recovery sites. We will then install the Storage Replication Adapter, or SRA, on protected and recovery SRM servers. We will then install the SRM plugin for the vSphere client and test that the connection to the SRM servers will work for that plugin. Please take a note here. We will not demonstrate the installation for the recovery site as it is perfectly identical to the installation of the protected site. Before we begin the demonstrations, let's go ahead and review the install architecture one more time so that you get a good idea of what the components are that we'll be talking about in this lesson. First off, we will begin with this installation of the SRM server. We will do this on the same operating system that's housing the vCenter server, and we will go ahead and do that installation. There's also a database that's pre-configured and ready to go so that we can hook up into that and do the installation. The next step after the SRM server is complete will be the SRA, or the Storage Replication Adapter. We'll go ahead and install that on the SRM server as well. After that component has been installed successfully, there'll be a step that's necessary, which is for us to restart the SRM server service. Once the SRM service is completely restarted and up and running, we will then log into the vSphere client to the protected sites vCenter server, and once we're logged in with the vSphere client, we'll be able to download and install the site recovery plugin so that we can have the capability to administer and configure the SRM server software from the vSphere client. As a reminder, we will be only demonstrating the installation to the protected site. The installation of those components to the recovery site is exactly the same. There is no difference in procedures or software in how you configure that. Where things will diverge, however, is on the configuration, and we'll get to that in a separate lesson. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in and begin the installation of SRM. Okay, now we're logged into the protected site virtual center server. We're going to begin the SRM server installation. So to do this, we'll make sure that we've extracted or actually downloaded the VMware SRM software. I have that executable right here on the desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by double clicking on this. Okay, finally, after a quite lengthy extraction process and initialization process for the install, we're now ready to begin the installation or continue it. We'll go ahead and click Next here at this screen, and we will accept the terms of the license agreement because you never get anywhere by saying no. Go ahead and choose a location to install this. We'll go ahead and choose the default location. In this area, you'll enter in the virtual center address. I would go ahead and enter the fully qualified domain name of the virtual center server. And then enter in a user with administrative credentials on that vCenter server. This would be the local vCenter server for the SRM install. So in the case of installing a protected site SRM server, we'd want to point to the protected site's virtual center server. Later during the configuration lesson, we'll talk about how to connect the two sites' SRM servers, but we don't do that during the installation. Once that's done, go ahead and click Next. This is just a security warning about the certificate that was, I suppose, self-generated by the virtual center. We're going to go ahead and accept this thumbprint because I'm in a trusted environment. I know that this thumbprint matches up. In a high security environment, you would want to verify that this thumbprint is indeed the thumbprint of the virtual center server. So I'm going to go ahead and click yes and continue. Now, Site Recovery Manager needs to also create its own certificate, so we'll go ahead and do this now as well and use an automatically generated certificate. You could use your own, we will just use the default. Then enter in the organization and the organizational unit and click next. Here's the area where you can trigger email notifications or where you would set the defaults for email notifications. I'm going to go ahead and we'll use a fake email. Here in the local site, I'm going to actually change this local site name. To protected site. That could be anything you would like though. Once those are entered, go ahead and click next to continue. Okay, this is a key piece. Earlier in the prerequisite lesson, we were setting up some of the things you needed to have for SRM to install properly. One of those was the database. In that lesson, we also created a DSN to connect to. We'll go ahead and select that now from the drop-down and enter in the database user credentials that were set up at that time. Again, this user must have credentials to log on remotely to that database if it is indeed remote. In this case, it's local, but we're still connecting to it as if it was a remote database. With that, we'll go ahead and click next. With all our information entered, we're now ready to click install so that VMware can fire off the rest of the installation. We'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, the installation is now complete. Now we can proceed to install the SRA. This is the HP left-hand SRA VMware SRM installer. So we'll just go ahead and click next to get this started. And we'll accept the terms of the license agreement. Go ahead and click next and install. Should just take a minute or two. There is an action required here, so VMware Site Recovery Manager service must be restarted before the SRA for SRM can be used. That's fine. I'll go ahead and click done. Might as well read the README real quick. Just give you some version numbers and supported platforms. Good to go. So let's do as the SRA commanded, and it's asking us to restart the SRM service. So to do that, we go to Administrative Tools and Services. We're going to scroll down till we find VMware Site Recovery Manager Server. I'm going to right click on that and click Restart. We should be able to now connect into vCenter server with the vSphere client. And we'll take care of the third very important step, which is installing the SRM plugin for vSphere client. Once that's installed, we can then connect into the SRM server, verify that it's there and ready to be configured. To install the plugin, simply go up to Plugins on the menu bar and choose Manage Plugins. If we scroll down, we should see that there is an available plugin for us to download and install. So we'll go ahead and click that link, download and install Site Recovery Manager plugin. Go ahead and click Next, accept the terms, and Next, and install. Quick, painless. Great. We now have the installed plugin showing up. Yep, right there. VMware Site Recovery Manager extension. So go ahead and click Close. And to see this new plugin, we'll go up to the home screen for vSphere client. And down under Solutions and Applications, we have a Site Recovery Manager plugin. We'll go ahead and accept the security warning, or actually ignore it. Aha, success. We're able to log in and look at the protected site, and we're now set and ready to configure this. However, this is just one side. We'll also need to log in to the recovery site and do exactly the same steps. Install SRM server, install the SRA, reboot the SRM server, finally install the SRM plugin for the vSphere client on the recovery site. Well, that does it for this lesson on installing SRM. But before we go, let's go ahead and review what we've learned in this lesson. First off, we started by reviewing the high-level install architecture for SRM, which consists of the following three pieces that we demonstrated. The first piece is the SRM server software itself, which we installed on the protected site's vCenter server. However, it could have been installed on its own standalone server if you were configuring SRM for a larger environment. Once that was finished, we went ahead and installed the SRA, or the storage replication adapter, on that exact same server, and that's the software that allows VMware SRM to talk to the underlying storage replication software. Once that was done, we rebooted the SRM service so that it could sense the SRA was there. Finally, we finished by installing the SRM plugin for the vSphere client. And when we did that, we would also connect into the Site Recovery Manager server software, and then we could see that from top to bottom, everything was functioning and ready to be configured. It's a key thing to note that the installation of the components at the recovery site is completely identical. What will change, however, is in later lessons, and that's when we go to configure the protected and recovery sites. Well, that does it for this lesson on installing SRM. Thanks for watching.